Hello. Well, I've read another book. This one is a novel. This is a browsing thing. I have some things that I heard about that I thought I was going to read, and then I'm like, I don't know. Then I go to the library and browse, and then this ran into my eyes. Joyce Carol Oates with Shuddering Fall, Oates' first novel. So this is Joyce Carol Oates' primary novel, and it is 60 years old. It was published in 1964, so that is 60 years by my count. And she's still writing, so she was very young. She was like 25, 26 when this book emerged. Unfortunately, I messed up the library copy. You can see here there's brown stuff on it. It looks brown, sort of fecalish actually. And unfortunately, I got that in a library book because I brought it to work with me, and I was going to sit with a pose with it. And we're setting up the pose, this new pose for a month on Saturdays. And we're setting up the pose, and the monitor brought me a stool that I was going to lean on or something. Unfortunately, had oil paint on it, which got on my shirt, got on my pants, and got in this book, and sent me into quite a rage. And I almost left, but ended up continuing on with the month of all-day pose. So, so this book is actually in the picture with me in some of the paintings that are being made, and they're probably going to be really beautiful paintings. And I like to be painted with books because I really like books. Obviously, I've got this book thing. I'm always talking about these books. When you see me, I'm talking about books. Do I talk about anything else? Yes, I do, unfortunately. Yeah, personal stuff. Well, not today so much. Anyway, this Joyce Carol Oates was my first impression, first time being kind of aware of the work of Joyce Carol Oates was actually a movie adaptation of a story. And that movie was called Smooth Talk. This is from the 70s, 80s. It's old, and with Laura Dern and Treat Williams, and it's about a small town girl played by Laura Dern, who's basically, it's a lot about this seduction, this big seduction thing going on with this this ruthless dude. So it's all about this weird sexual energy and between males and females, and this one about the same. It's loaded with weird sexual stuff and kind of low life, working class folks or farmers, rural. These are not fancy New Yorker people. They're New York, but upstate. They're not, fancy literary type people, which you might associate with Joyce Carol Oates as far as what she became. And I started reading this, and I said, well, it's got this one-room schoolhouse, and these kind of like, these poor hicks and so forth. And, how does she, is she entitled to write about this stuff, or is she some rich girl? And then I'm going to resent her, slumming into, my world, essentially. She's basically authentic. She's from upstate New York somewhere, some little town. Went to a one-room schoolhouse, which I guess, I don't know if there's still one-room schoolhouses in the USA, probably. But she went to a one-room schoolhouse. It was probably what, if you're that old, that would have been in the 40s, I guess. So, so she's from the past. And she also, her family story is like crazy. Like her, I think it was her mother's mother, her grandmother, was a victim of her father attempting a murder-suicide with her, and he succeeded, and she, am I allowed to say that word, S word? Oh, YouTube, S word. He actually, it was a murder. I guess murder's good, but S, and so she, the grandmother survived. This is when she was a kid. So Joyce Carol Oates' grandmother survived this murder S thing, and the S guy, her father, died, and she lived to go on and have family and have become Joyce Carol Oates' grandmother. So there's all this kind of weird shit gone on in her life, and so she's entitled. And the book it's really kind of great. I really enjoyed it, and I was kind of in the middle of one of my moderate crack-ups during the reading of the book, and being besieged by family, people who think they're family with me, and stuff like that. So I was kind of like not in much of a mood, and kind of indulging in too much THC, actually. So I was kind of having a rough time during the reading of this book, and I'm better now. But it was really a crazy story. And what goes on, now I have to use more speaking of language and what you can say and what you can't say, this is from 1964, and there's a line in here which is particularly interesting to me, where there's two forbidden words, like I'll say I'll forbid both of them in this. So there's a line in this where someone says something about the effing enners, okay? So so the enners word is printed out as a slur for black people, and fucking is it's not there. So so that's interesting, because now that would be the opposite in censoring, I think. Maybe not. Anyway, I think that's what would happen. Of course, on YouTube, and what else is going on with corporate media, I don't know where we're going to land with all that, but we press on, don't we? At least I'm not political, am I? Right. Joyce Carol Oates with Shuddering Fall. Now, I'm not really convinced about the title, because okay, what goes on? All right, there's this farm woman named Karen. Okay, so she's not a Karen. She's actually kind of privileged, but she's the last child of the youngest child of this farmer, and he's had like 9 wives or something, and all these other children, and so there's sort of this little murkiness around him and what's gone on with these people, and whatever, wives have disappeared or whatever. So that's kind of presented in a little like offhand in the beginning, and there's this neighbor kid that lived nearby, and this other old guy that's in his shed, who was the father of the neighbor boy. And the neighbor boy has not come back for years and years and years. And so the father of the Karen girl go over to visit this other guy who's dying. And they're saying, well, is your son going to come back? Blah, 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 blah. And, well, the son does come back. And his name is Shar, S-H-A-R. And Shar is a race car driver. So yeah, more of this sort of like, bumpkin kind of stuff. So he's a stock car kind of driver in dirt races and county fair things like that. It's kind of low level stuff. So he's a race car driver. And Karen at this point is like 15 years old or something. So something goes on between them, and it's all kind of like, everything is told, but in a sort of a dreamlike way in this book, or else I was in a dreamy state. I don't know, but it was all kind of dreamy and crazy, but in that way, kind of really realistic, I thought, because, you know, well, life is dreamy and crazy when you think about it. I mean, I think about my past and what went on and what I did and why and what the motivations were and how I would do things different. It's all maddening and it's crazy and it's like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know why I'm doing what I'm doing. So there's a lot of stuff like that in here, and people confusing what you do to mean something else. Like, there's some kind of attraction between the 15-year-old and this guy, this race car driver who's like in his mid-20s or over. And he's, you know, kind of this romantic figure that comes, kind of a little bit like Treat Williams in Smooth Talk, if you've seen that, you know, kind of this, you know, he's a roughneck, basically. And so, you know, he's a drinker and a roughneck. And there's a scene where he has to go into town to do something about his dad dies, and he has to go into town to do something about his father dying. And he tells the girl that she's supposed to come with him, that her father told him that the girl's supposed to come with him. And that turns out to be a lie. And it turns out he's kind of moving on her. But, you know, it's also like she's kind of showing up in his space. So it's like, you know, it's all this kind of you want it stuff, you know. So it's all a little murky with all that, whether, you know, she did want it or not, or what she wanted or got what she, you know, what she was sending out signals and what he got and all this. So it's all that kind of crazy male-female stuff that she's trying to deal with in this novel, and probably does another stuff too. And I mean, this, as I said, this is the first one. I might have read the story of, I Know What You're Going, I think, is that what it's called? The story that ended up being Smooth Talk, which is actually a real case. Anyway, these two, you know, they have a wreck going into town and go off the highway, and then, you know, Sar's kind of nuts at this point, and he goes back to his little dad's little shack there and burns it up, and something going on with Karen and Shar, and then the dad shows up and he finds them and he's got a shotgun, so it looks like it's going to be a shotgun wedding, and I don't know, but and then you know, there's this fight with dad and Shar, and then they take off together. So Karen and Shar, and so then there's other characters that come in. There's a big race, and there's a kind of a race boss. You know, the guys. You know, these race car drivers don't own their own cars unless they're Paul Newman or something, I guess. You know, so he's racing these little you know, county fair sort of towns and stuff. So. The whole thing culminates, the climax of the whole thing is at this 4th of July race in this, you know, little town somewhere, and that's the big thing of the town. And there's Max, who is the boss of Shar and owns the car, and then there's a couple other people. The character of Max is drawn a little bit more than a couple other people that are with Max all the time. One is Larry, and he's just sort of a handler. He kind of does stuff for Max. And then there's the doctor, and the doctor is only referred to as a doctor, so we don't, and he comes in doing doctor stuff when necessary, and there's a few points where doctor stuff is necessary in this because stuff goes on. There's a race with Shar where he kind of forces somebody off the road, off the track, and that guy dies, and other stuff goes on. There's racial issues going on in here, as I said, with the, you know, the obliterated word, yeah, It's crazy stuff. It's a little hard for me to talk about it because it's an experience. Really, reading this novel was more of an experience than a story, at least to me, or in the state I was in. I mean, it's always everything, all these things, these art things, whatever. They're all subject to subjective viewpoints. Like what sort of state of mind was the viewer in when he saw this or read this? And that's always the case with me. I'm always, of course, my state of mind gets affected by what I read, but it also gets, kind of I affect what I read by my state of mind. So it's a weird kind of circle of stuff. So yeah, there was a kind of a riot at the. I'm not sure. Well, it's all kind of stuff in the '60s. It's. I quite liked it, and I'm probably possible that I would read more Joyce Carol Oates books beyond this because I thought it was really good, and it sort of dealt with things that I'm primarily interested in. That's why I put aside these other books. I have some nonfiction books, about really kind of heavy political things that, well, to me, in my time of life, what does it matter, I don't have any children, as everybody else I know are kind of old. It doesn't really matter what goes on from here. And a lot of times I'm reading these other things to tell you about it. So I'm kind of doing this, educational service, which is not necessarily kind of stupid. So I think I'm going to readjust into what I actually want to read and what I get out of things that I read. And I'm getting I got a lot out of this one, and I really liked it. So I would recommend with Shuddering Fall, which, as I said, was not particularly appropriately named. It has a nice cover painting. I'm not sure if that really goes along with the content either, but it's very nice. And you can go into the kind of low-life world of race car driving and people that are drinking too much and are kind of violent and are kind of insane, because these people are all insane and exploiting young people and using sexual exploitation and all this kind of stuff. It's like all this stuff that our culture kind of runs on, I guess. I don't know. I was just listening to a podcast about Diddy and etc. So I'll talk to you next time. I browsed yesterday and 2 days ago and found a new Cory Doctorow novel that I'm going to be talking about that I'm really enjoying. So maybe that'll be next in a couple of days. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you. I'll never see you, but you'll see me sometime. Bye-bye.